All right, guys, welcome to the channel. Scuba Steve here, and it's a beautiful day here in Rancho Cucamonga. And today on this video, I want to talk to you about my struggles with weight loss over the years, and specifically GLP-1s, Ozempic Monjauro, and my experience with with this new kind of amazing drug from my perspective. So I'm going to get into this, and you saw the thumbnail, the first picture there. I was kind of a little bit of a chubber bubble, wasn't I? I lost a lot of weight. I'm down 60 pounds. I'm really happy, really excited, and I want to share this. And people might ask, hey, Scuba Steve, what's this channel about? Adventure? I thought it was about living the real life. Well, the way I look at it is, if we don't have our health, especially, what I'm trying to do, be it a scuba instructor and lead these group trips and do all the fun things that I like to do with, hiking and biking and kayaking, and, you really, health has to come first, and you have to be intentional about it. And I talked about that in the last video, if you had a chance to watch it, about my journey with being a vegan and whole food plant-based. So take a look at that if you haven't had a chance, but kind of leads into this. And so over the years, I'm going to go back and talk about, my entire adult life I have been yo-yo dieting. And I think a lot of you guys can resonate with that. A lot of us have struggled with weight loss, and runs in my family. And some of the things that run in my family are diabetes and heart disease. Okay, so I have to be intentional about how I deal with my health and my weight. And so when I was in my early 20s, I had a gardening business, and I was literally pushing a mower every day. And I had a high metabolism, and I could eat whatever I wanted, and I stayed thin. And then I sold the business, and I ended up getting a desk job basically, and I was pushing a pin. And so things got a little bit harder to lose the weight like I did before. And so things over the years, I would basically do this, and it was kind of the same pattern. I would gain all this weight over 3 or 4 years, and then I would just one day I would get it in my head that, man, I'm miserable right now, and something would click, and I would just go hardcore and just make it happen and lose like 30 pounds, right? And I did that in a few months. Okay, as I've gotten older, it's getting harder and harder to do that. And I know that you guys, if you're in my demographic, you can understand what I'm talking about. And so, in the last video, I talked about being a vegan and being whole food plant-based, right? Well, you can still overeat, and you can still, pile on the pounds, even eating well. But I'll tell you what, if you've ever heard of the sad American diet, the SAD diet, right? The sad American diet. If you've ever heard of that, it's even more difficult to keep that weight down, because everything is so calorie intensive that we eat. It's just loaded with fat and oils, and just high caloric, and it doesn't matter really what you eat, you end up eating too much. And they say you can't outrun a Big Mac. It's hard to exercise it all off. And so I have struggled with that over the years, and it's always been kind of a mindset where it's like it gets in your head, and it's like, oh, okay, I can do this, and everything goes away, and it gets a lot easier to lose that weight. I'll tell you one example where I was looking at pictures, and I was a scoutmaster, and I had this favorite pair of shorts I had, these green shorts, and I really liked them. I thought they were cool looking, and I had this T-shirt I liked, and I was looking at these pictures, and I was out at an outing, and I saw a picture of myself, and I was just kind of horrified by it. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe how big I looked in the picture, even though I had seen myself in mirrors, and with those same clothes on, right? And I don't know, it didn't click. Well, that was one time where it clicked, and I was like, okay, I got to lose this weight. And it was a day before Thanksgiving, which was wild. And then so the next day, I barely ate anything, and I went hardcore and lost the weight. And so, but it just gets harder and harder and harder to get that mindset. It's mind over matter, right? And in fact, the last time I lost weight before I went on GLP-1, I actually followed exactly what Tammy ate for like 6 months, and I stopped drinking beer, and I did lose. I got down to 210, which was pretty good for me. I was up at around 250, and so but it was hard. It was really difficult, and so that was back in 2019, and I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, man. The difference between being thinner and losing the weight and having the extra weight, for me, it is a remarkable difference. It's incredible. And so, just for example, teaching scuba diving, we go out and we'll do like 3 dives in Catalina, and I'm doing all these ascents and descents, and I have all these students, and the swims over and back. I mean, it's pretty physically demanding, with the water, and kind of takes a lot out of you. And then the beach dives. We'll come back to the beach and we'll do a beach dive, and we have to go through the surf. And I just did a dive with a student, and I towed her through the surf. And in the past, when I kind of was at my top weight, basically what would happen was I'd be huffing and puffing. I'd be sucking wind getting out there. And now it's just not the case, and it's just so much easier. So it makes such a difference. And so, I also said in the last video that we follow doctors. Just because I eat whole food, plant-based, vegan, this way of eating, doesn't mean I think it's a cure-all. Okay, I follow doctors. Tammy and I follow doctors, and there are things that only modern medicine can take care of. Modern medicine, it is amazing. And so what happened? I'll tell you about what happened with GLP-1s. And I talk about being intentional about your health, okay? And this is a perfect example of, how I was intentional about it, and I was my own advocate, and I kind of made my own decisions with this. So I started seeing this, these stories about Ozempic, and back in a few years ago, when it first kind of came out, the big story was all these celebrities and millionaires, whatever, they were using it just to lose weight, when it was really meant for type 2 diabetes, and and taking all the meds off the shelf. And so that story was going on, and I saw this story on 60 Minutes, and it was a doctor, and she was talking about how this was such a remarkable drug, and how it was so effective at treating obesity and losing weight, but it was hard for people to get it. It was very difficult because insurance companies weren't approving it, and so there was all this kind of roadblocks, to the average Joe trying to get this med, right? And so I went ahead and did my research on it, and I was actually on the verge of type 2 diabetes. I was right over the edge on my A1C. It was 6.6, which I think it's 6.5, where they consider you type 2 diabetic, right? And that's something that I've always flirted with, and it's I kind of get to that point when my weight goes up, and then when I go down, it backs off. And so I have to struggle with that. Well, so I made the decision to go to my doctor, and I had the intention of getting a prescription to Ozempic, okay? And I was officially type 2 diabetic. So I go to the doctor, and I'm talking to this doctor, and he basically said, no, you don't need that. We're going to put you on Jardiance. Jardiance is going to take care of you. And, don't worry about it. One of the side effects is UTIs. And I've had UTIs. And the women out there can attest, this is something you would not wish on your worst enemy. And I thought, man, I don't know about that. And so he said, oh yeah, and you're going to lose weight too, because all you have to do to offset the UTIs is drink a lot of water, and then you'll be peeing all day, and you'll get all that sugar out, right? And so it helps your, type 2 diabetes, and it helps you lose weight, right? So I did my research on it, and he gave me a script, and I thought to myself, no, I don't want to do this. It's not worth it to me. So I went back like 3 months later, and I got a different doctor. I'm talking to this doctor, and it was really pretty interesting because she had a whole different take on it. I told her that I wanted to, try out Ozempic, and she says, oh yeah, we'll put you on Ozempic. It's the Ferrari of drugs for type 2 diabetes, and you'll lose weight. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. So she gave me a script. I start taking this, And within, I took my labs, right, and I had my A1C higher. About a month and a half, 2 months later, took my labs again. My A1C dropped a full point, full percentage point. I mean, it went down from 6.6 to I think it was 5.6 or 5.5. It went down a whole point, okay, which was unbelievable, unbelievable, right? And so it really was incredible, you know. And so then my insurance company decided, oh, you're cured of type 2 diabetes. So we're not going to approve it anymore. And I was talking to my insurance company and said, oh no, yeah, we can't do that, but we can give you Monjauro. Your Monjauro, yeah, if you want to take that. I'm like, all right. And I did my research on that, and Monjauro has a higher rate of weight loss, you know, statistically than Ozempic. And I thought, well, this is why I'm taking it. I want to lose this weight, right? I mean, it's like up to 22% of your body weight you can lose on Monjauro, and I think it's like 10% on Ozempic. It's a big difference, and it's actually, you know, I've proven that. But so I went on Monjauro after that, you know, and it's just been incredible. And I want to talk about, you know, my experience with it. So when I first went on Ozempic, I was a little intimidated. I'll be honest with you. I mean, you know, I had to stab myself. It's an injectable, right? And you have to, you know, take the shot once a week. And on the Ozempic pen, you could actually see the little tiny needle. And I was like, man, I'm going to stab myself with this needle. Oh, man. And so I did, and I was like, yeah, you can't even feel it. It was just like, whatever. And then it turns out that once a week shot is way better than taking pills every day. So got past that really quick. Side effects, okay? So when I first went on an Ozempic, okay, it blew my mind. I mean, it literally blew my mind. I was just like shocked at how intense I think it was 0.5. I think it was just milligrams, and you know, I just couldn't even believe the effect it had on my body. And basically, what happened was, all of a sudden, I would eat 2 or 3 plates of food, and then I was like pushing it away after half my plate. I mean, it was just incredible. It had such a profound effect on just the way you eat and the way you feel. And the funny part is, it's not, you're still hungry and you still desire food, but you just can't eat, you just don't want to eat too much, right? And so that was my experience. And the side effects, I mean, really the only side effects that I've had, and really, you know, they talk about it, you know, it's like, you get constipated, diarrhea, you can get nauseous. I never got nauseous. And really what it comes down to is if you power through kind of the way your body's feeling and you just eat too much, you kind of pay for it, okay, with these symptoms. And so, you know, but it's pretty rare. And I don't know, I just didn't have too many side effects from it. But I could see where you could if you really were kind of abusing it and just like, you know, saying, forget it, I'm just going to, you know, eat this anyway type thing. But your body, you just don't want to. You literally don't want to. And so it's just been absolutely incredible, the transformation. Now I'm down 60 pounds. Started about 250, I'm down to 190. And the last time I lost weight, I got down to 210. And I just couldn't push past that. Just couldn't do it. And this time I've gotten past that point to 190, and I mean, I went down like 3 sizes in pants, you know, a couple sizes in shirts. This shirt is a large. I was wearing 2X. These shorts are 36, size 36. I was wearing 42. Man, it is my wetsuit. I had to get, you know, newer wetsuits. It is. I bought this wetsuit that was too tight for me, this Scuba Pro shorty, and I couldn't get into it. I mean, I just literally couldn't get into it. Now it fits me, and it's snug, and it's perfect. There's so many benefits to losing this weight, and for me, it was worth it. And I just got my labs about a month ago, and literally every single line on the blood labs were in line. It was absolutely incredible. And by the way, speaking of that, what's the first question we get as vegans? How do you get your protein? In 9 years of eating this way, I've never had an issue with protein, being deficient in protein. It's not a thing. It's a myth. It's just not a thing. So don't worry about that. All right. But the labs are the best I've ever had. Really. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And a lot of it has to do with the weight loss. And the other thing is I was on blood pressure meds. Okay. Again, for my family history, heart disease. I've had high blood pressure over the years. And what happened was, I was on the high blood pressure meds. I got to the point where I was on 2, right? And it was driving down, as I was losing the weight, it was driving down my blood pressure so low that I was getting a little dizzy, and I told the doctor that I had to get off, I had to, back off. And so I backed off the one, and it wasn't enough, I had to quit. I stopped doing the BP meds entirely, and ever since, and I take my blood pressure literally every single day, and I record it. And look at the trend, it's unreal, okay? So these are the kind of things. Know your numbers, right? You got to know your numbers when you're going in talking to your doctors, and you got to take your blood pressure, know what your A1C is if you have if you're susceptible to these chronic diseases, and be intentional about your health and what you're doing. But I'm here to tell you that the GLP-1s, Monjauro, Ozempic. I've been on on Monjauro. I'm on the maintenance, dosage now, and I really want to get down to 180. That was my goal. That was always my goal, and I'm kind of trying to. But I plateaued. I just plateaued. I can't push through. My doctor says, "Oh, you need to exercise more." And you know what? She's right. I do need to exercise more. And like I said in the last video, I'm not a gym rat. I like to just go out and have fun, and that's how I get my exercise. But it probably isn't enough. And so I'm still struggling to get past that point. I really, because I still have a little belly, and I still want to get, past that point. And so I'm working on that, but I'm just here to tell you that, modern medicine, there are, things that you can do and you can take advantage of. And here's the other thing. People talk about cost. So it was running me with my insurance $250 for 3 months. That was my deductible, right? So I'm on the phone with Caremark, and this was probably about a year ago, and she says, "Oh, you know about the coupon, right? The coupon is a manufacturer coupon for $25 for 3 months." I'm like, "What? I didn't know about that. What are you talking about?" And she says, "Yeah, I'll text it to you. And you just keep it in your wallet, and it's good for a year, and then you just renew it after, for the next calendar year." I'm like, "What the heck?" So I get this, and sure enough, I go to the pharmacy, and I get and I was paying $250, and then it's down $25. And it was a manufacturer coupon. So go figure, But, all I can say is this is my experience. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying it's been pretty amazing for me, and it's changed my life. It's been transformative. I want to stay down in weight because it just makes my life so much easier. And I'm 61 now, going into my 60s, right? You got to be intentional. I want to travel. I want to do all the things that I'm doing, be an instructor. I want to be healthy. I want to be fit. I want to stay out of the doctors. And you got to do what you got to do that. And so hopefully you guys, got something from this, and you enjoyed it. If you did, smash and like that, or smash that like button on YouTube, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this and get something out of it. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.